Can you tell us a bit more about the sort of transition from grad school into the government, and maybe any surprises that you might have had in making that transition?
You have a lot more bosses. A lot more bosses.
And
Also, plagiarism doesn't matter anymore. There's no such thing. In fact, you're encouraged.
In fact, it's encouraged.
Please.
You can actually steal in the policy world all
There
the
is
time.
no footnoting, citations, irrelevant. I would say that's one of the best things.
Anybody else?
You know, to me, one of the biggest differences was your autonomy works differently in government. Let's put it that way. Like in your daily life, right? You can go around and you can say what you want to say about any issue you like, you know, within certain legal limits. But you know, people can have opinions, and in academia, you're actually encouraged to have opinions, and sometimes radical ones, and to push ideas forward. Things work. That's not bad stuff, and it's not bad in government either. But one of the constraints that becomes different is that you work for somebody, and I don't just mean like a boss, you know, a direct manager or something. I mean elected officials who actually have the legal authority in this country to make decisions, and also they have to face down a parliament and account for what they've done, take responsibility for those decisions, and they have to answer to a public and take accountability for what it is they've decided, right? So there's this whole kind of democratic superstructure over what you're doing that makes it very different from writing a paper, writing a paper for a master's program, working on a PhD. It means that you can propose lots of things, you can point out flaws and problems, you can highlight alternatives, give people all kinds of options. But at the end of the day, you don't get to make the decision. You don't get to decide what's going to happen. You know, you don't get to decide what the minister, the prime minister, the cabinet are going to agree to. You don't get to be in the thick of the debate, you know, offering your own view when a decision is made public and the opposition is usually decrying it for some reason, or the public has trouble understanding it, or there are different points of view, stakeholders want to know more. You're not really in the thick of those kinds of decisions. You're there to support the government. And it's just a different way of operating. And I have to say, it's really not for everybody. It means that you have to be willing to be very honest and be very forthright within the kind of institutional setting you're in, you know, and providing your advice and giving out options and giving analysis. But supporting the government, which is, it's a legislative requirement for us, but it's frankly, it's a lot deeper than that. It's kind of the basis for democracy. You know, we as public servants really cannot be unelected wandering around sounding off of how we think the country should be run. Nobody entrusted us collectively with that authority. It's somebody else who did, and it's really important to recognize. So when you work in the public service, you have to be ready for that kind of trade-off. You have a lot of influence, you have a lot of ability to put forward ideas and arguments, but you also have to be, to me, a big change is you have to be ready to suck it up, frankly, when things don't go the way you think they should have gone. And that's kind of part of the nature of the job.
And I'd just build on that and say that one of the, just speaking about the transition from grad school was, there's a whole layer of considerations that often I think that aren't natural, even to those of us who've studied policy. I think that we often gain an academic understanding of how the policy process works. And so one of my challenges in coming, and thankfully I spent 3 years on the file because I could see eventually sort of how all of these considerations sort of actually sort of were drawn out. But is that you often think that you have a very good answer, and you actually think that there's something that should be done and should be done now. And one of the things that comes with the job is recognizing not only that you don't get to make the decision, but that you are up against a whole series of other decisions that are also very important. and that there are a whole series of people out there who have a good idea or something that they think is crucial, and like the cabinet agenda can only be so big. Like there's only so many things that the government can do, and there's a priority sort of setting exercise. And I think it's helpful even to think about the way in which the public service is structured, and that Kate was saying we have a lot of bosses, and we do. We have a very thick bottom layer of content specialists who do a lot of great work on trying to sort of wrestle through the issues. But ultimately, when we present our best case forward, when we go into the cabinet room and say, well, it's not us who goes, it's our deputy and it's our minister, and so we feed up a chain that ultimately gets to make a decision, and you get to influence a huge amount when you're down at the bottom, but you don't get to be in the room. And I think that takes a certain a kind of person, and it also takes a certain sense of satisfaction. A previous clerk of the Privy Council has said, like, it's the public service is a huge frigate. Like, it's not supposed to be able to turn on a dime. It's supposed to take a really long time to be able to turn, because we're not supposed to be the kind of institution that just waffles. And so, that's not for everybody. Some people want that kind of instant satisfaction, and there are definitely jobs in the public service that can give you that. But I would say, in terms of if you want to come in and say, next week I want to fix EI, and then that doesn't really work that way. Although now might be a good time if any of you are interested. Yeah. Just so you know.
Having ideas.